Alright, so y'all know that for the past few months, I've been reviewing all the movies set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in celebration of the upcoming April 27th release of Avengers Infinity War. But since I hitched a ride out into space to avoid any spoilers for the movie, I figured why not bring in some cool space-age technology to help me out with some of those reviews. So check this out, my new buddy Rocket and I threw together a robot to help me out with all my future reviews. Isn't that awesome?
My name's Ultron, and it's nice to meet you all.
I haven't really given it a name yet, and it kind of looks like a little shitty Jamba Juice machine or something, but whatever, I'm sure it works fine enough.
As soon as I have arms and hands, I swear I'll strangle you.
Yeah, whatever, pipe down. It's time to review the next entry in the MCU, Avengers Age of Ultron.
I only came online 2 minutes ago, and I already hate my life.
After experiencing a terrifying vision of the future during a raid on a Hydra base, Tony Stark works with fellow Avenger Bruce Banner to create an artificial intelligence named Ultron, a peacekeeping protocol designed to help the Avengers protect the world from their enemies. But after Ultron sees humanity as a threat after a few minutes on the internet, the Avengers must overcome their inner demons, gather new allies, and stop Ultron from destroying all of mankind.
Personally, I don't see a problem with that.
Now honestly, when I first started rewatching this thing, I thought I was going to be in for something on the level of Captain America the Winter Soldier. I mean, we get to see the Avengers coming together, wrecking people with these cool flashy moves, and working as a single cohesive unit. Isn't that awesome? Seriously, it felt like a natural progression from the rough introductions and inevitable team up we got in the first Avengers movie. It was awesome. That having been said, the problems with this movie start as soon as these guys start talking.
Language!
What's the matter? You don't like a little humor with your movie? You want to keep enjoying Marvel's movies, but you don't want them to change.
No, it's not that. It just feels odd, especially considering the development we know these guys have gone through in their solo movies. Do you really think somebody like Captain America, somebody who took down a super secret spy organization and had his entire worldview thrown into question in the process, would start scolding people about what curse words they're using?
Just slipped out.
Who gives a shit? Honestly, stuff like this is why I thought it was a shame the Marvel higher-ups went back to Joss Whedon to make an Avengers sequel. His dialogue always felt a little hokey and dated to me regardless, but when it comes to the first big sequel of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it almost feels like Joss Whedon ignored all the other movies where all these characters have had time to grow and develop, and instead he just took the versions that he wrote in his movie and plopped them into this one.
Oh, quit being a
And don't think the dialogue's the only problem here. The focus on the Infinity Stones is really awkward, like it feels really crammed in and unnecessary. The fact that Ultron was able to use all this tech from the Hydra base the Avengers took down earlier, despite the fact that common sense would lead you to believe they moved it to a more secure facility, and how newly introduced heroes like Falcon apparently got left in the dust during the big action scenes. All of these and more lend themselves to this idea that Age of Ultron was thrown together as carelessly as possible. And the sad thing is, we know this is a thing because even Joss Whedon himself mentioned stuff like, with the cave sequence, it really turned into, they, meaning the Marvel higher-ups, pointed a gun to the farm's head. They said, give us the cave or we'll take out the farm.
Seriously, what the is wrong with these people?
Now, for all the problems I have with Marvel's editing style and Whedon's writing, I will admit Whedon himself has a real way with story. I mean, overall, this is a great, fun movie. While the writing may be garbage on occasion, the actors do a pretty good job at getting through everything and making the lines sound reasonable. And on top of that, Ultron feels like a real threat. The stakes, while not necessarily any higher than the first one, do feel pretty high. And I like that the movie takes time to explore what all makes these characters tick, past what we've seen in the previous MCU movies. Speaking of characters though, what the is up with that random romance subplot between Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff?
I think you're being hard on yourself.
Here I was hoping that was your job.
What was that?
I'm a robot, and even I can't calculate when any of that started.
Exactly, and that's the biggest problem with this romance between two completely random and seemingly incompatible characters. Why did Black Widow, somebody who'd previously been hinted at having a romantic interest in both Hawkeye and Captain America, suddenly fall for a dork like Bruce Banner? Even worse, Joss Whedon wrote The Avengers, the same movie hinting at Hawkeye and Black Widow having some sort of romantic interest in each other, so you'd think that out of all the other MCU writers and directors, he'd be the one to carry that plot point forward, right? But no, instead we get some out of nowhere family for Hawkeye and Black Widow going, who should I be with? The super strong, good-natured guy with a military rank who I know more personally based on literally the last time people saw my character on screen, or some bipolar nerd who could kill me in my sleep if he had a nightmare?
You gotta admit, it really sounds pretty stupid when you say it like that.
The rest of the Avengers, believe it or not, are even worse. While they start off sounding a little awkward, leaving room for potential improvement over the course of the rest of the movie, they all kind of go downhill because they're disappointingly seemingly lifted straight from their earlier pre-Avengers 1 era movies. Thor's still a good-natured tough guy, Tony's back to making quips and blasting bad guys in his latest Iron Man armor, despite the fact that he destroyed all of them in the last Iron Man movie, and as mentioned before, Captain America's back to being his pre-Avengers Boy Scout level character, despite everything he's been through over the course of the last few movies. Even Maria Hill, who admittedly got a few interesting moments in The Winter Soldier, was thrown to the side for seemingly no good reason. Honestly, it seems like Joss Whedon decided to take everything that would have made the OG characters interesting and cool to explore and stuck all those things with all three new characters in the movie: Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. Even though all three suffer from a few problems, like Vision's a little bland and both Wanda and Pietro's accents disappear from time to time, they're all really interesting characters, especially Wanda and Pietro. I thought it'd be hard to work both Magneto and the mutant side of their history out of the MCU versions of the characters, and even though I'm not a huge fan of how Joss Whedon worked Tony Stark further into the MCU,
I grab her, roll under the bed, and the second shell hits. And on the side of the shell is painted one word.
Stark. We wait for 2 days for Tony Stark to kill us.
I still thought he did a pretty great job at bringing these characters to life.
Not me. I say that guy, and what he did to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, well, nobody cares what you think.
I swear to God, and when I'm ready to kill humanity, I'll kill you first.
Now, as far as the villain of the movie goes, I gotta admit, I actually don't mind the level of snark and quips we get off of Ultron.
What the Are you f***ing kidding me?
No, honestly, I'm not. I mean, I would have preferred he stayed cold and calculating, kind of like at the beginning of the movie, but at the same time, I get that Whedon was really trying to cement that connection with the King of Snark himself, so it makes sense that Ultron would have a little bit of that personality, even if that personality tends to pop up seemingly out of nowhere sometimes.
God's righteous man, pretending you could live without a war.
I can't physically throw up in my mouth.
To be totally honest, I'm more triggered by the fact that Joss Whedon and the special effects team went the Optimus Prime route and gave Ultron a full-on face. Why? What's the point of that? He's a robot, and he's the villain. I don't want to care about what emotion he's having during a particular moment. I want to be scared shitless that he's doing anything. Hell, the Ultron drones look comic accurate, so why couldn't Ultron Prime look like that too?
I need to strike fear into the hearts of all humanity, right before I rip their still beating hearts out from their chests and make them look at it before they die.
Damn dude, calm down, I'm not trying to get a strike here. Seriously though, I do wish somebody involved with this movie started winding down Ultron's more human, quote-unquote, aspects as the movie moved on. Like maybe we could have seen it going away as he kept upgrading himself and building more drones, leading to a more cold and robotic villain reminiscent of the one from the comics. That having been said, I will admit that I really like James Spader's performance. He has a great voice for a villain like Ultron, and he does a great job at making the robot feel like an evil Tony Stark.
I love James Spader, he's the greatest.
Moving on, I thought the fight scenes were awesome. While the characters may seem like Joss Whedon didn't really give a shit about what all they've been through beforehand, he did seem to care about how they fought during all those movies, because they really bust out a bunch of awesome moves during their fight scenes. Cap especially manages to keep up with Ultron for f***'s sakes. Like, could you imagine this dude actually lasting against something like Ultron before the Winter Soldier happened?
Hell no, he would have died in the first minute.
The fight scene with Ultron's army and the Iron Man Hulk fight were both really cool, especially that Iron Man Hulk fight. Sure, that fight kind of feels like it's crammed into the movie, considering how we never really see what all sets the Hulk off, but I am glad that after working with the Hulk for so long, Tony actually thought to put together a contingency plan, and that it actually kind of works. Now, I'm not thrilled that the Ultron drones are essentially another bland, one-note CGI army, but like the last fight in the Avengers, it is really cool that we get to see everybody teaming up and using their powers and stuff. Speaking of, I feel like the effects are mostly fine. I do think it's a little bit awkward that the Hulk acts like a huge green gorilla again, especially since that aspect of the character gets tossed out the next time we see him, but he looks realistic enough. And on top of that, I really like the CGI on Ultron. I know I said earlier I don't like the human face and the way Ultron Prime moves or reacts to pretty much anything.
Go f*** yourself, loser.
But I do really like how the drones and even Ultron's original Iron Legion body look and move. Like they're really rough and really detailed. Like seriously, look at that. That looks awesome. Really the only effects I don't like out of this whole thing are the ones for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Well, really just the ones for Scarlet Witch. Yeah, Quicksilver doesn't really seem as visually interesting as his Fox counterpart, but that's fine. He's visually distinct, and the super speed portions do actually look like the actors running around faster than everybody else. Wanda's powers, meanwhile, just feel so boring. Even ignoring how the Scarlet Witch is one of the more powerful characters in the Marvel Universe, you'd still expect somebody who can control things with her mind to be able to do something cool. I don't know, I mean, we did get to see her casually controlling and shattering a few blocks, so maybe she's had some kind of practice since then, right? But no, instead she barely manages to break a few robots at a time and kind of mind controls people, but that's it. Who gives a shit? I want to see some full-on chaos magic here, not some weak little wispy things floating around on screen.
Seriously, that's weak as shit.
So that's Avengers Age of Ultron. Is it good? Is it bad?
This movie is the greatest thing ever made, and I don't want to hear anything different.
Well, honestly, I feel like it's a little in the middle.
Go f yourself.
Sure, it builds off the original Avengers, and the story does feel more personal, like Joss Whedon claimed he wanted it to be, but it does feel kinda clunky at times, and not all the new characters are treated all that well by the time the credits roll. I wouldn't go out of my way to get a copy of the movie if you don't already have it, but I would say it's a fun time waster, something to tide you over before you end up watching the next movie in the MCU. But anyways guys, that's my take on Avengers Age of Ultron. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this review, or maybe you have your own thoughts about something I didn't mention here, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.